right now, we're going live to Eastern Ukraine, to Donetsk, to talk to Chris Miller, he's Senior Correspondent for Mashable. Chris, thanks for joining us, and thanks for joining us so late.
No problem, thank you.
Just tell me what's the situation on the ground at the moment, and we saw a lot of photos actually of long lines at polling stations, especially in Donetsk, but as we know from a previous vote, previous rebel vote for quasi-independence in the spring, it was easily staged by opening less polling stations than usually. What's the situation there with the turnout?
Sure. I mean, considering that there's about half of the population, half the pre-war population in Donetsk here, it was a fairly good turnout. But that said, the images that we've seen certainly make it look as though it was greater of a turnout than it actually was, just simply because the number of polling stations is, has significantly decreased. And so that's why you're seeing these long lines and massive crowds inside, very tiny schoolrooms, which is where the polling stations have been set up. Just about 30 minutes ago, the DNR exit polls came out, which were not very surprising in showing that Alexander Zaharchenko, the current self-declared prime minister, of the Donetsk People's Republic, is winning with 81% of the vote.
Oh, wow.
It's two competitors, and the party Donetsk Respublika is winning over Free Donbass. I believe something to the tune of 65% to 30-some-odd%.
And there were just two parties on the party list, right? I mean, on the voting list.
Yes, just the two parties. Yes.
Oliver, actually, I know Oliver wanted to ask a question too about the situation, how it depends on the security situation on the ground. Yeah.
Hi, Chris. Hope you're okay there. Yeah, I suppose that the first question I wanted to ask is, when I was there about a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking to a lot of people on the ground, and they were basically saying that yes, they'd been turned radicalized against Ukraine, but at the same time, DNR was still on probation. I don't know whether you had any thoughts about what the view on the ground was in the polling station.
No, that's a good question. I got the sense that was still the pervading feeling. I would say it was somewhere around 50-50. People coming out to vote for DNR. Versus those coming out voting as simply a rejection of Kiev, but yes, no, that feeling that you were talking about, I think that is still very much in play today.
Yeah. I think the other thing as well is, I was looking at some of the tweets today, and certainly it appears that winter's coming. Are preparations any more advanced than they were 2 weeks ago? Are you not very advanced?
No. There's still several regions around the city of Donetsk, or neighborhoods, districts around Donetsk, as well as entire towns and villages that are without power, without gas heating. The DNR leadership and the LNR leadership have said that they're trying to get these things up and running before winter, but today, during the elections, the first snow fell. So they've got their work cut out for them, no doubt about that.
Sure. Did you manage to get over to Lugansk at all?
I did not manage to make it out to Lugansk today. I spent most of my time within Donetsk region. We went down to Ilovaisk, several small villages around Ilovaisk, and back up through Shakhtarsk and Kharkiv. The scenes were pretty similar. Like Max said, and like we spoke about earlier, the crowds were fairly large in very tiny polling stations. In Donetsk, there were some long snaking lines at two of the first schools that we went to in central Donetsk. The station in which Zaharchenko voted for bright and early this morning. actually, he was well, the voters were greatly outnumbered by journalists and gunmen standing guard.
Right.
Actually, Chris, one thing I wanted to ask you actually about these rumors of military buildup, right? And we saw a lot of photos and videos from yesterday, from today, of identified military trucks, so some of them with military equipment. Do you see anything like that on the ground? Could you verify? Have you seen this by yourself?
Yeah, over the last week, we've seen 3 or 4 large military columns move in. And that isn't counting the Russian humanitarian aid convoy. But these columns, including the one that we saw today, and I say we being myself and my photographer, Evgeny Feldman, along with several other Western journalists, saw this military convoy of at least 40 vehicles that included our, service to air guns or anti-aircraft weapons, as well as troops in military garb and several crates of ammunition stacked in the back of these trucks. Most of them were covered, but they would have a flap open in the back where you could see in. They were so big, these columns, that it would take 2 or 3 minutes for the entire column to pass through. And this is the third or fourth we've seen in the last week. We didn't see these 2 weeks prior, leading us to believe that there is some kind of military buildup. Whether it is to launch an offensive or just build up defense lines, is unclear.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chris. I'm sorry, I think we have some technical problems with the Skype connection, but again, thanks a lot for joining us, and stay safe there, and we hope to hear from you again. Thanks a lot. This was Chris Miller from Mashable. He's senior correspondent there. And actually, Oliver, as we heard, he also saw a lot of military buildup in Donetsk, and we see a lot of actually photos, as I said. And actually, I want to show also this video that some people actually filmed in Donetsk, as I understand, right? It was yesterday, this long line of unknown military vehicles without any number plates, and actually they're just like they're just heading towards the downtown Donetsk. What do you think of that? Is that really something we should worry about, this military buildup, apart from those news that something is going on the outskirts of Mariupol, with Ukrainian last stronghold?
I'm just looking at this convoy, and it's the first time I've seen this video. I mean, it seems pretty modern vehicles, actually.
It looks massive. I guess it's not humanitarian convoy.
No, I guess not. I think the thing to say is that there are military vehicles inside these Occupy. I mean, it's essentially a de facto state. We should be honest, and the Ukrainian influence there is state level, we should say, is minimal. But that there are military vehicles there should surprise no one. There weren't so many military vehicles, certainly on show when I was there 2 weeks ago. And the general feeling...
That's actually the recent development. I think we started to see that 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago.
There was certainly a lot of debate within both DNR, Donetsk People's Republic, and LNR about what is the best path, given that winter's arriving, given that preparations aren't going well, given that there's problems with electricity. Do you consolidate and then push on? I think everyone was agreed, pretty much everyone I spoke to was agreed, all the commanders, that an advance was necessary to retake at the very least Lugansk Oblast and Donetsk Oblast. But there was a split in terms of the timing. They
always want to advance, but it's not up to them to decide. Actually,
it's certainly not up to them.
It's very safe to say that it's up to Russia to decide whether or not there's going to be a massive advancement, because the last time we saw they left up to the rebels to decide military issues, and rebels lost the half of their territory.
Exactly. The counteroffensive, which started in sort of mid-August, around the time of the humanitarian convoys, was very definitive and compared, rather. clearly with what happened before, 2 weeks before.
For 3 minutes.
Sure.
They're just driving by those streets.
This is a serious convoy.
It's a huge convoy.
Yeah.
Actually, and quick question before we go for our next segment is actually this rebel vote. What do you think? Is it, will it help them as they want to legitimize the, frozen conflict, right? To make it really frozen with the help with elections? Or will it have any legitimacy? I mean, it's definitely unrecognized by anyone except Russia. And it's actually, that's the question, will Russia even recognize that?
I think Russia will recognize it. It's given every indication that it has. And I think that the project at the moment is to do their best to legitimize these new structures, statelets. And they've brought in international observers, inverted commas, with marginal, generally, figures from the European far right and Abkhazia and Russia and so on and so forth.
Some of them were neo-Nazis, so it's not only
yes, which doesn't exactly tally well with the idea of fighting the fascists in Kiev. But, we're open to all kinds of interpretations. Okay,
and I want to finish with this actually quote, and please put it back on the plasma. Active voting today appears less a wholehearted endorsement of the DNR, the National Republic, of whom many remain suspicious, but an angry rejection of Ukraine. That quote from Sean Walker from Guardian. I
think that's the crucial point. As winter's coming, the feeling I got was that DNR, LNR are on probation. And if things go badly, if there's a humanitarian crisis and DNR, LNR don't manage to blame it wholly on the Ukrainians, then they have a problem.
It's true. I saw today a lot of patronizing comments when we saw those pictures of, vegetables being sold right at the polling stations with with ridiculous amount of money, almost for free. And people starting to write on social media, like, you see how they buy those votes. And actually, if you see those photos, people who came by to buy those foods, it's just like old people, and they're barely surviving there for months. They don't have any kind of food and any kind of support, not from the state, not from Ukraine, not from Russia, especially the situation is worse in Lugansk, because Russia cares a lot, Donetsk a lot, but not about Lugansk. So it's
because
really,
their loyalty is fairly clear already.
It's huge.
I think you should probably add that it's not actually just a problem inside the territories controlled by the separatists.
Oh, no.
It's actually as much a problem sometimes on the other side. I think a lot of people have been caught in the middle here, and especially pensioners. In some of the border towns around Lugansk, for example, they've waited many, many months to get their pensions paid, and that seemingly isn't the best way to go around winning hearts and minds.
Sure.
So that's a big question for you, for Ukraine there.